Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. Before the show, we were talking about how I blended into the green screen, but I guess it's a black screen to you guys. But on our big screen, it looks like I'm really blended in. That's funny. But welcome to this edition of the show. And, we always kind of start out with a fishing report.
Yeah.
And this past weekend, we were still actually on ice.
Yeah, we were actually on some decent ice. The shorelines were starting to get a little bit thin, but we were able to walk on and off, in the morning and then get off in the afternoon without too much trouble. Fish were moving up shallow. We were fishing really a wide range of depths. It was anywhere between, like 6 feet, 8 feet, all the way out to 15 feet. And the schools were moving around. We on the forward facing sonar, we had some pike rolling through. Both of us caught a few bass. We both caught some bluegills and crappies. So everything's kind of moving around, ready for spring.
I know that you've said this twice already, but you said kind of moving around. And let me emphasize the fact that these fish are flying around like there is no tomorrow. I don't know if, those little bursts of that warm water coming in, they are getting their first taste of spring. But I think that was the key this past weekend, is keeping up with those fish. Because here is the other thing that I will admit is we went out and the wind was so strong.
Yeah.
Like, it was honestly so stupidly
windy.
Watch
that reel that we posted. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and I felt like that doesn't even show the half of it. And so here's the deal, is like some of the fish would come by and like it was a decent bite, but some of them, it was a pretty small bite still, despite how much these fish are moving around. And so that's surprising to me. But I made the choice to put up my shack to better detect those bites, to watch my rod instead of having it like wiggle around in the wind. I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic. That's what was happening. Josh was hole hopping and I was not. And so I do feel like I had better like rod control and all of that. But the fish were moving around so fast that I would just have to catch one as it was there. So Josh, I don't know, you probably missed a million more fish, but you were hole hopping, you were keeping up with them. And so you caught honestly a lot more fish than I did.
I did miss a few, but I think one thing you got to remember when it's really windy like that, I think that's where maybe I have an advantage over you at this time of year, is that I tend to use a little bit of a longer rod. And so I kept my line tip really close to the water, trying to keep out of that wind as much as possible. And I think I was fishing a little bit bigger jig than you. Those two things combined, I think, helped me a little bit more. But definitely, I sat down in the shack because it was windy, and I was like it was windy. So I sat down in the shack. I really stopped getting bites. Like, forward facing sonar is great, except for the part where it shows the fish just sitting like 20 feet away from you and they don't move. And then you go and try and catch one, you'll pull one and then they kind of scoot off, or something chases them off, and I had to go chase them around. And I think it just helped, especially them going in and out of the shallows and kind of stuff coming in and out. I really think it helped just moving around, catching one or two out of a hole, and then moving to a different hole.
Mm-hmm. But that's ice fishing. And at this point, that's old news.
That's old news.
I'm kidding. Not entirely. But, I think a lot of people are moving on to open water, rigging up boats, launching in rivers, all those good things.
Mm-hmm. Just didn't want you to forget, we do have an announcement to make from last week's.
Go for it.
So
this is perfect timing.
Last week we talked with iShack Share. Shack Share is a great company. They are service. I don't know what Jamie would call himself, but it's an online service where you can list your ice shacks for like Airbnb style, and rent your stuff out and make a little bit of money when you're not using it. It's really cool. Check it out. But he surprised us even with a giveaway at the end of that show last week. I think he's giving away a lake effect rod, and we did a random drawing last night. Just like Emily said, we were drawing on Wednesday, and we picked our viewer, Gene Strasser. So Gene, we'll get a hold of you. We'll get a hold of you. Thank you for watching. I know that you are one person that tunes in almost every week and says hi. Thank you for watching. Thanks iShack Share for giving that rod away. But yeah, we'll get you guys in touch. So there's our announcement.
Awesome. And I guess with that, I am excited to bring our guests in. So without further ado, that. Oh,
There
I
we go.
couldn't be any happier. Yeah, that you have your cat now.
He never hangs out with me. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, he's so excited to be on the show. So,
Yeah, he's a superstar.
Amy, Troy, please introduce your cat and yourselves.
This is Pockets. And she's kind of a little turd. She's about ready to leave. So
He literally never hangs out with
no,
her
she
ever.
didn't.
It's always on top of me, which is weird. Like,
That's-
This is the show where dogs always bark and cats mess
Yep.
up green screens and all kinds of crazy things go on. This is what it's about.
Well, I'm sure Remy will bark later too. So
We kind of know you guys. Can you guys introduce yourselves, maybe for people who are just meeting you here tonight?
we are Troy and Amy Hansen, and we're from Iowa. And we've met you guys through Stryker. We're part of the Stryker team. So
yep. Iowa City area. Kind of just live outside of there, out in the country. And yeah, I don't know, met you guys through probably Stryker, I guess. And then, yeah, we do a lot of fishing, open water, ice fishing, travel all over, do some catfish tournaments. And yeah, that's kind of about it.
So I know tonight we are going to talk about open water and catfishing. And so at the risk of going backwards, I'm interested in hearing a little bit about your ice season because from the pictures I saw, it seemed to go great for you guys. Can you give us some highlights?
yeah, we had last year was just horrible. So this year, the fact that we could get on the ice more than twice was just the coolest thing ever. But we actually chose to kind of stick around Iowa and just do our local farm ponds and lakes and things and not really put too much effort into traveling over the winter just because you just never know with ice conditions and stuff. Doing an 8-hour trip in a weekend is very hard. So, but yeah, we had really, really good success with all the species. We got to target some catfish, which we love, and then all the panfish, perch, walleye. And then we did do a big trip up to Okoboji. But other than that, yeah, it was nice to be on the ice every weekend and not have to worry. So
Yeah, we're pretty blessed with here. It's kind of like farm pond country. We've got quite a few friends that either they have farm ponds or like they know somebody that have farm ponds. And I'll tell you, these guys around here, they can stock a farm pond. I mean, walleyes, nice sized perch. We caught some giant bass this year. And then again, the catfish. And then our good friend, Jimmy Brown with Chasing Cats Guide Service. He's got a kind of like a private lake that he lives on. And he was nice enough to invite us over there. And they do a very good job with fish management. And like Amy said, just being able to get on the ice more than twice. I think not this past season, but the one before that, I think maybe 3 or 4 times tops we got on the ice. And then, then we topped it off with a fun ice camping trip up to Okoboji and caught, mixed bag up there. So it's a pretty good year.
That's awesome. I know that there's a lot of people who, are really getting excited about ice camping. Looking back after you've done it, is there anything that you're looking to improve for next year?
there's always something. You think that you're perfect and I love camping. So I love finding all the ways to do different things. And I love organizing home in our camp. So, but
I think every single week she's like, "Oh, we need to do this. Or
Yeah.
we need to change this up." I'm like, I don't know. It works great. I'm open to whatever though.
the thing with us is when we first started ice camping, we've always had a dog. So it was an issue trying to find like space for her to sleep with us, but not rip our, like couple $100 sleeping bags that we have, because we rely on our gear versus the heat source. So that's one thing that we're pretty big into, because you never know what's gonna happen with your heat source. So we always make sure we have proper clothing, proper sleeping gear, all that stuff. But the dog, it was always an issue with her being on the cot with us. There was just not enough room. You're uncomfortable, all these things. So we've bounced around from all kinds of different ways of how we can sleep and she can sleep, and we can fit with holes, and we like to sturgeon fish too. And so that's, you got to have even more space to fish. And so I think we're pretty happy. We got the disco cots not too long ago.
The disco cots are worth the money.
Yeah,
if you're going to have more than one person, just being able to stack them. And it works great because I get on the top bunk, and if I snore,
I can punch him.
Fair game. I always tell her, I'm like, if I start snoring, like I hate people that snore, and the older I get, and apparently I snore or breathe loud a little more than I used to. But yeah, the disco cots, I think when those came out, that to me, that's one of the biggest game changers probably in the ice camping is space, saving space. And then they're nice. They're comfortable.
Yeah. They were very heavy. They're kind of a pain in the butt to put together. So again, only if you have like more than one person or, also a dog or things like that or kids or whatever, then that's great. But if it's just you, yeah, definitely just obviously go with a very simple cot. But yeah, and then we ended up upgrading. The dog now has her own chair. So
I think the dog has more stuff than I
does.
do. Legit. Like she has more camping stuff than I do.
She's kind of bougie and she likes to, when we're next to campfires, she likes to be in a chair. So we've got a dog chair that is now, it's where she sleeps in the tent and all the things like that. And then has her fire chair. And so we figured out our sleeping arrangements. Now it's just fine tuning. How can we fit everything else in the shack without going to a bigger shack, So
yep. Yeah, we're running the 650. Eskimo, I think the Eskimo Outbreak 650. We started with the 450, and it was just too tight with everything and everybody in there with the the three of us. So we bumped up to the 650. Been happy with it. Then you bump up any bigger, and then it's hard to keep it heated. And they honestly don't pack a whole lot bigger, Yeah. But there is a lot more room. But it's the same thing as open water fishing. The bigger the boat I get, the more stuff I'm going to pack in there. So we kind of got a good system right now where I think we're pretty content. We really like it.
We have everything we need. After that, if we want something, it can come down the road. So.
Yep.
I think that is the best thing about ice camping is that you can always adjust and there's always new products and always new things that come out. And so it is just an ever evolving process. Honestly, I think the planning is half the fun of it.
Oh yeah. I got a notepad. I sit there and
if you need a good time, just Google packable tables.
That's funny. I just sent Emily a packable table thing on Messenger. Yes.
I think we own 4 of them right now.
But I'm not happy with any of them.
Yeah,
I gotta find the right one.
We still haven't found the right one.
Again, we don't need one. Just one.
But when you do, then you just really do.
Well, and there's other fun things too. Is like it's not the most convenient, but I really like having our wood stove in our monster lodge, and that I really wanted to do that, and so I found a little stove and I got all the parts for it, but then it was like, how do I use it in the tent safely, right? And then I happened upon a YouTube channel where this lady, she shows you how to sew a window jack for the window of the otter so you can run the stovepipe out. And I just messaged her and I was like, hey, I saw your thing. Could you make me one? And she's like, oh yeah, sure. Like $50. And I looked up how much it was for materials and stuff before I gave her a yes, and she pretty much made it for cost.
Nice.
And it was really awesome. So it's unnecessary, but I just think it's really cool. It adds that element of camping when you can burn wood for winter. And
if we live somewhere where we could drive on the ice every single time, no worries, and you can haul all that stuff out, we do that 100%.
So that's our biggest I'd say issue down here in I'd say mid Iowa. Just being able to we have to drag everything out. We have to pull it out. Sometimes you can drive a side by side, which we have one of those. We've done that before. That makes it nice. But all the YouTube videos we watch, people camping, it's all up north where they got 20 something inches of ice. They're driving a truck out. They have more stuff than we have in our house. And we're just look at each other.
We're walking on.
She's
6
like, oh,
inches.
I like all this stuff, and I'm like, I have to drag this out here. I mean,
I will say the J ropes, I bought those this year, and they are a game changer.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
For when it
cool.
comes
That's the second
to
person I've
walking
heard say
home.
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
very, very happy with those.
Mhm.
Very happy with those.
Awesome. Might have to get you one.
Honestly, like just pulling the stuff, just having it, around here instead of either pulling it by hand or around your
Mhm.
waist.
Mhm.
Mainly, you can lean into it, and it's way more comfortable. Worth the money, and I don't think they're that. I don't think they're that bad priced either. I think they're fairly affordable.
We also have a harness for Remy that she can pull stuff too, but she got off lucky this year. She didn't have to do any of that. So.
We had enough ice that if we went out, we could either like side by side it
Yeah.
or whatnot. But yeah, we got to camp I think one time last year, and
She had to pull her weight.
Yeah.
There was snow. We
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
doing it.
like she's literally. I'm not joking. She probably has more camping stuff than I do, and it's like if you're going with us, you're pulling your own weight, and she did awesome too. I'm like I can't wait to see the first time when. She's a lab, but she's like squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd be walking out there, and I'm like, oh man, she's gonna see somebody, or somebody else is gonna have a dog down the lake, and she's just gonna take off, and all the stuff's gonna fly out of the sled. But she did really well.
Mhm.
So
That's awesome.
That is so awesome. That's funny. Well, I have to ask, does she also go out on the boat with you?
Oh god.
oh yeah.
She's the best boat dog until you get to the dock. Then she's gone.
Or if you stand up out of your chair, she
takes
is
two.
a chair stealer, and if you're as soon as you pull a sandwich out. So our good buddy Ken, our fishing partner, she'll literally sit there and wait. She hears a rapper, and she'll be sleeping in the front of the boat the whole morning, and she's pretty chill on the boat. Just pretty much just lays around. And as soon as she hears that wrapper or a sandwich bag open up, she'll sit there and just stare at you. And I don't know if you guys know, but if you pull food out on a boat, it's pretty much guaranteed a bite.
Yeah.
It's gonna get bit. And if you set that sandwich down, yeah, it's gone. It's not gonna be there.
That's funny.
2 bites at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is though, like when we're catching, monster catfish or, anything like that, and we're literally like stepping over her and all that stuff. She don't care about any of that. She doesn't care about bait. She doesn't care about the fishing, nothing, yelling, nothing. But yeah, open up a wrapper.
Yeah.
She's there.
Or if you're running bait clickers.
Oh.
We do a lot of like sandbar camping. We'll go out and if we run the river, the Missouri River, a lot. That's where we do our sandbar camping. And same thing. She'll be chill. We'll be sitting by the fire, and it might be 1 o'clock in the morning. And when a big blue hits, I mean it's like, zzz. I mean it's like wicked tuna.
Yeah.
On that show. I mean that's the best I can explain it. And as soon as that clicker goes off, and even if we run them during the day,
Well, sturgeon. Or that happens with sturgeon too.
And sturgeon, like we'll sleep at night on the boat, we'll boat camp, and yeah, she'll wake us up. Like there's something about that bait clicker, and she'll let you know. So it's like beach fishing on the sandbar. We'll have a bunch of rods set out, and as soon as that clicker goes off, I pretty much just follow her.
Yeah.
And she goes straight to it. And so
awesome.
yeah, she's definitely our boat dog, camping dog. She goes everywhere.
She's our
with
kid.
us. Yep.
And so then as far as camping in your boat, is that a similar setup as to camping in your ice shack? Do you bring your disco beds?
No, our boat is kind of if we camp in the boat, it's a last resort. And so it would just be like
By camp, we pretty much just sleep on the front deck.
Yep, just have our backpacking pads down and then just sleeping bags and call it good.
Yeah.
We don't have we just have a
there's
bimini.
no,
We don't have
we don't have the
full
enclosure or anything like that. I think really the only time I really actually slept on the boat was sturgeon fishing up on the St. Croix.
Mhm.
And it got down to I think 28 degrees that night. And so we had
we slept in our striker gear.
we had our striker gear on. So in the front of the boat, it's a Starcraft STX 2150, and it's got a pretty good front deck on it. And we laid down a quilt, our sleeping pads, And then we had like our sleeping blankets. We had a blanket, and I think we had another quilt over us, and literally had like everything pulled over top of us. And,
Never got cold.
Didn't get cold. I mean, it slept great. I mean, it slept awesome.
Yeah.
And we'd have bells on the rods, and we keep hearing a bell go off. And I'm like, I told her, I'm not getting out unless I hear drag pulling. That was a mistake. We had like 4 or 5 stirred, but when we woke up in the morning, finally one pulled drag, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get up. It's big enough because I had the drag set pretty heavy, and I'm like, one pulls it, it's a good one. And I got up, and well, apparently it wasn't just one bell that was going off; it was multiple, and they had just one all the way around through everything. And
don't recommend that. Just get out and get it.
Yeah, get out and get it. But we ended up getting them all in, and I got everything untangled. I think at that time it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was awake then. So it's like, well, I'm up. I sat there and I untangled everything. And the biggest one ended up being, I got everything untangled, and the biggest one I had to hand line it in because there was a knot, and I just couldn't bring that up through. But I ended up getting everything untangled. It took me about an hour and a half.
Wow.
We got all the fish in. We got everything untangled.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is actually crazy. Well, and I appreciate your story about all your blankets, everything, because I was like, oh, what are you doing for mosquitoes? And I'm like, no, this is weather where there's just not mosquitoes.
Yeah. Yep. When we sandbar camp, then we'll take we have these cots.
Cot tent?
Cot tents.
It's like a cot tent.
So it's basically a cot, and then it has a tent that can come on and off of that if you need to. And we each have one. And so the dog sleeps with me, and then he has his own, which is horrible because when he snores, I can never reach him then because he's somewhere else. So I don't like that. But
best sleep ever.
But yeah, we'll haul those in the boat, and we'll find a sandbar, and that's what we use for those. And we have like 10 different ways we camp. It just depends on the situation.
Yeah. Like 2 different tents and different cot tents. So we got 3 different cots. Then the ice shack, we'll use that a lot. This weekend, we're actually going trout fishing up northern Iowa. I think it's going to get down to 20. It's below freezing.
Still 20.
Yeah.
So we'll take the ice shack up there and use that as our tent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Man, that is just like really fun to be able to have that as an option. I think that there's so many people, they think of spring coming up, they think of shore fishing, but I think a lot of people honestly get a little bit defeated by shore fishing because it's easy to go out and like not necessarily catch fish. But this is such a unique way to go do that. I mean, I guess you need a boat to get back to the shore, so maybe that's still cheating, but I think that's a really cool opportunity, to get out there and set up like that. But I also know from when we were shore fishing that one of the hardest things for me was finding like good rod holders, to hold a rod strong, like in a bank, and especially sand, like you're talking about. What do you have good advice for that?
For rod,
that one.
Rod holders. How do you secure it? Like even in the sand?
Technically, Troy had manufactured us rod holders several years ago. So we were using big, thick, heavy things that he had, which work amazing. But last year, Whisker Seeker came out with some rod holders, and they're just very lightweight, simple, and that's what we use right now. As far as we haven't used them yet on big heavy fish yet. We've just used them just for some of our smaller trips, just because the bigger fish we've been in the boat. So it's just it's just kind of fine tuning everything. But yeah, it just depends on like what do you want to haul in your boat? Do you want lightweight and packable, or otherwise you like?
Yep. So yeah, like the Whisker Seeker ones, and there's a couple other brands out there where they're similar, and they're all great products. And then so my profession is a fabricator. So at home here, I'm like, well, I can make something cool, and just literally came up with stuff. And I said, well, this worked. Took some angler, so I made my own. But Whisker Seeker came out with some, and then again, there's some other companies that are similar to them. And they're lightweight, they're packable, they go, it's It's like 2 prongs, and then it's kind of like bent up. It works great. So there's a lot of good ones on the market now.
That's cool. I know that when we were bank fishing, I mean, that's a few years ago now. Okay, actually, because you know what's funny? Josh and I, we actually met online. Yeah. And so when we lived like in 2 different towns, and so when we would like go on dates and we were in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and the river goes right through, and so we would catfish, actually. So like
fish.
back in the day.
Proper
Yeah,
fish.
we would do that all the time, but it's been a while.
Well, so in Minnesota, when I was in college, I fished the Red River on the west side a lot, and doing a lot of the sandbank fishing like you were talking about. We had one spot that just was, for whatever reason, it was like a sand beach, and we did a lot of that. And so when I moved over here to Wisconsin, you know, we have quite a few rivers. It's a lot different than the Red River. So, you know, so I tried to bring some of that stuff over here, and a lot of my gear was oversized because an average channel catfish out of the Red is like, you know, 5 to 8 pounds, and an average here is like a pound.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of that was oversized. A lot of my gear was oversized. And so, you know, trying to figure that out with Emily. And then we kind of got a boat, and we
moved on to
panfish.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, you got to catch the panfish to catch the catfish. That's a great bait right there.
That's true.
That is true. Actually, that's really funny.
Yeah. But on the bank fishing, like right now, as the ice is going out, like now is a great time to do the bank fishing, because those cats, they move shallow. I mean, like what you were saying, even on the ice fishing, that they're moving shallow now.
Mm-hmm.
Those catfish, they move right in behind them. Those, you know, the panfish, the bait fish. So now is actually a pretty good time if you're on a lake. If you can find, and the shallower the better. Like, so when the ice starts going out, usually those catfish will push. So if we have a reservoir, so obviously the dam end, that's the deep end, and then at the upper end where the river feeds in, it's a shallow. It's just a great big mud flat, and I'm talking like 1 foot, 2 foot deep, and they will push right up into that. But also, if you have a lake, you know, maybe it's not a reservoir, but just a lake, and you have a great big bay, and especially if that wind's beating into it for a few days, that bank fishing is great. You know, set up on a windblown shore with shallow water, cast a piece of cut bait out, you know, whatever's legal. But for us, shad, we have a lot of shad. Shad is king right now. Shad guts, fresh shad, rotten shad, it doesn't matter as long as it's shad. But up there, you know, some of them lakes don't have the shad. Like if they're legal, you cut up like bluegill, crappie, and you know, whatever bait fish you got. Crick chubs are an excellent springtime bait. So,
Nice.
if anybody's looking to get out, yeah, go find some shallow water and cast some lines out.
That's cool. I guess I'm a little bit inspired by how shallow they might be found, because I always think like catfish need to be deeper than that. I don't know why I would think that, but I guess it's just something that was in my mind. So I'm glad to clear that out.
Just different times of the year.
Yeah. Like right now in the boat, I'll drive the boat until the boat gets stuck, and then cast out. I mean, literally, we will fish in a foot of water, and sometimes even less. The only thing you got to think about that though is the temperature swings. If the sun's out right now, our ice has been out for 3 weeks now, maybe. I think maybe 3. But still, there's so much fluctuation in the temperature. Well, you think, you know, a foot of water, if it's 70, say we had a couple 70-degree days, that will go from 34-degree water all the way up to like 45-degree water. So that's a huge temp swing. So sometimes they won't go that shallow. They'll be out in like the 3 foot. Because, you know, like when you drop a fish, if fish is in cold water and you drop them in hot water, it stuns them. And same thing, vice versa. So for me, I think you just got to play in that, I'll say 1 foot to 5 foot range. And it goes for blues, channels. Flatheads are still running pretty dormant right now. They don't really get active until the steady water temp comes up. Amy's having a coughing attack, so it's going in and out.
Okay.
I was kind enough to give her my cold last week.
I
Starting to kick in
feel
now.
like that's normally me in the show. Like,
Well, the first 2 times I had to let the dog out and back in. If I leave it again, it's because of me.
no.
Anyway, so yeah, the shallow water fishing, like it's my favorite time. I mean, absolute this from now till May, it's my favorite time to catch them. I mean, I could go on for 3 hours about talking about tricks and tips on how to fight them and all that, but more or less just go into the biggest wide open shallow flat you can find, 1 foot to 3 foot. The bigger the flat, the better. And yeah, it's cool because when you cast out, like a lot of times you'll see the swirl, or you'll hear it. Like they'll it's a foot deep, so they'll try to pin the bait down. The tail will flop. So here in Iowa, we can use 3 rods per person.
Yeah.
So, if her and I fishing, we have 6 rods out. And another real quick tip, a lot of times catfishing boats, guys will just have their rod rack on the back of the boat, and everybody casts them just straight out the back. Our boat, we make it look like a porcupine. Even if there's 2 of us and we're sitting in the middle of the boat, each one of us will have 1 rod out the back, 1 rod out the back corner, and then either off the side, or we always, at least one of us cast clear in front of the boat. So you have that big spread, because they just kind of cruise out there, but you'll find an area where they found something to eat. And if you catch, 2, 3 in one spot, just cast some other rods over there. But it's funny how I see guys, like, they'll just have the rods they'll have anywhere from a 16 to even a 24 foot sea arc. And they'll have all their rods out the back. When you have a 24 foot boat, you got rod holders all around the boat, and they have all the rods in one spot.
That's funny.
And so I'm going for like 3 hours.
These are some good tips. Around here, I'm thinking what this makes me think of is like Lake Poygan, probably at the end of June. I know our flathead fishing really starts to pick up around, mid to late June. I know a lot of the guys around here, they like bullheads and bluegills. But as far as like the channels and stuff, that would be a really cool thing to do in that, because that's kind of our in between time, right? So our inland waters are closed to sport fish until May something, and so to be able to fish something like that, to fill your time up, that would be pretty fun. I would think.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and it's fast paced. I mean, you find them. It's fast paced. You're not catching just one fish here and there. I mean, usually in the spring we go out, we'll have anywhere from 20 to, last week, 2 weekends ago, went out with my buddy Jimmy Brown that I was talking about. And we went to just a small lake, just a small county lake here in Iowa, and we caught 50 in one afternoon. And biggest one was 11. We had like 11 210s, a 9 2/8s, and then a bunch in that 5 to 1 pound range.
Wow.
That's cool.
50 in one afternoon in one spot. We never moved. we started catching them and we never moved, and we just sat there. So It can be fast paced, and they taste good. Like now, if you're going to eat catfish right now, like obviously we tend to throw the big ones back. Especially if you can catch that many, there's no point in keeping a trophy sized fish when you can, catch 20 of the 1 to 2 pounders. But channel cats about 5 pounds and less are good about it all year long. But right now, that cold water, they are delicious.
Nice.
And if it gets to be June and you guys want to do some catfishing, we're not afraid to travel.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Man, I guess the world of I love catfishing. That's the thing, is it is so fun. So do you guys actually guide, or you just do all this for fun?
We call ourselves half-star guide service. We don't actually guide, but if you come, we only guarantee you're gonna have fun. We don't guarantee you're gonna catch fish.
Yeah, you're gonna have
or
a
you
good
might
time.
eat good, but that's
Yeah. And last year, I was kind of slow at work, so I dabbled a little bit. I guess you want to call it guiding. did some trips.
In Iowa, you do not have to have,
You don't have to have like your captain's license or anything like that.
unless you're on the river, right? Or whatever.
Unless you're on like the Mississippi or Missouri River, you have to.
Mhm.
But I did do a few trips, and I helped Jimmy out. He had a couple trips where it was multiple people, and it was just too much for one boat. So he asked me if I could help him out, and I did. And I'm glad I did. It was awesome. It was, and that was like one of the first times actually doing a guide trip.
Mhm.
And man, I'll tell you, when somebody's paying, like if I take friends out or something, even if I just take somebody, they want to go fishing, we'll do that too. We'll just take people, hey, you want to take me fishing? And, oh yeah, we got time. We'll do that. When they're not paying money, I mean, I still get mad. Like we catch fish. Like we're going to catch something. We're going to stay out there till we catch something.
Yeah.
But when people pay good money, there's a lot more pressure. So all the guides out there, man.
Kudos to you.
Yes.
We would not want to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. We've helped out a few guides, and it is a whole different feeling when you're thinking a lot less about the actual fishing part, and you're like, oh, maybe they need this, or how can I help them do this? And like you're watching somebody, and you're like, do I say something because they're doing something goofy, or do I just let them hang out? And it's like, yeah, it's a whole different ball game. I'm very glad that I don't guide for a living right now. Anyway,
I will say, I mean, I enjoyed every little bit of it, and but the stressing. But luckily, I'm really good at talking to people. Like I've been told, really good at talking to people, and I'll talk to somebody like I've known them my whole life, and I've only met them for 30 seconds. But I think that's important. If people are going to do that, like you got to kind of be a people person.
Yeah.
That helps. But no, I don't know if I could do that for a living. Maybe like a retirement job.
Right.
Something like that would be a lot of fun. Hopefully, I told Jimmy this year, I'm like, well, hopefully you got a few more big groups that come in, because that was a lot of fun helping them out. But other than the guiding thing, like we literally love taking people out, especially kids. Like taking kids out and especially ones that don't get to fish a whole lot, or ever. I mean, there's a lot of kids we took out and they caught their first catfish, out of our boat, and usually pretty good size. And for them, I mean, most kids, I mean, a 5-pound channel cat is huge to them.
Yeah,
it is big.
just the excitement, and that's what for me, that's just the excitement. Like it brings me back to my childhood when kind of remember catching my first big catfish, and that's what ended up getting me hooked ultimately. But
right. Well, and this is a great segue, because we originally had brought you guys on to talk about your summer camps that you guys are going to start offering. So I know I did see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see you have like a nature kind of camping summer camp and then a fishing summer camp. Do you guys want to walk us through that? We have a few minutes left.
Yeah. Well, the nature camp started last year. And by me, I've been wanting to do this for years. Just would love to just get kids outdoors as much as possible. I work in a preschool classroom. And I just see it day in, day out that, so many kids are unaware of just the things that are happening outside. Not necessarily saying you have to fish or hunt or do any of that stuff, but just being aware of nature. And so I finally got everything lined up and insurance and all that stuff. And I went ahead and did it last year, and I did 3 weeks worth. Each week was a different age group. They were each a week long, and it was so much fun, but I learned a lot. I learned that 3 weeks is too much for me. And I did it. It started out where I was going to kind of have some help, but I didn't really have a lot of help. And so I was doing some of it on my own. And so that was a struggle too. But, and I was also doing it with no budget. So everything was kind of things I had or things we found in nature, things like that. And so this year, my sister is joining me. She's doing it with me. And then we've got some sponsors involved to help us out so we can have like a lot more fun activities. that'll keep the kids interested longer. And then we've included fishing into this portion because last year my insurance would not cover it. So, I mean, there's just been a lot of loopholes I had to go through. And that's hard because people don't see that. They just think, why can't we swim? Why can't we fish? Why can't, it's like, I'm being told I can't because we're actually going through a local park. They're like 2 miles away from us, and it's a county park, has campground, beautiful lake, walking trail. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous park. And in order to use that park, I have to go through, certain things through them and have insurance and all this stuff, which is good anyways. But I'm finally fine tuning it all, and I've got some help. So I'm excited to do it this year. I'll have 2 weeks this year. And then we just kind of decided to we've always talked about, people are always asking, well, can you teach fishing? Can you teach fishing? Well, we don't always want to take them out on the boat though.
Yeah.
So,
and that was last year with her. So I was pretty much hands off. I mean, I think I helped her gather some supplies and stuff last year for her nature camp. And they kept asking about fishing because a lot of them were our friends' kids that would take them there. And they're like, well, we want to go fishing. We want to go fishing. She's like, well, we can't, and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's what brought up this year. She's like, well, what do you think about doing like a kids fishing camp? And she's like, would you want to help out? And I'm like, well, she's like, kind of broke it down to what she's going to do. So. And I was like, yeah.
We kind of decided, then I decided we do it in the evening. So that way he can do it because I have the summers off. So, and I also don't get a paycheck in the summer. So the nature thing also became kind of like a part-time job that I built for myself. So just full transparency for those watching. But a lot of friends and a lot of people were commenting when we kind of threw these ideas out there that a lot of parents don't know how to fish or don't know enough to want to take their kids somewhere or don't feel comfortable taking their kids somewhere. And so we kind of decided to maybe just kind of mold this into one thing, and we do it in that evening so that Troy can help me after work. And most families are available in the evenings, but one child and one parent would sign up together, and it's geared to teach the child, but the parent is there right next to them.
Also learning
or helping their child, even if they know how to do it. Just all skills are welcomed. And so that way they're having a moment of bonding outdoors, or even just learning new skills together. I feel like that's a lost thing too, that parents and kids don't learn things together anymore, or things aren't taught down. And so, but because of that, that'll help us be able to teach one-on-one per kid. Because if we had 10 kids, there's a lot of hooks in the fingers and things like that going on. And so we wanted it to be in a safe environment as well. But,
so for me on that one, she kind of brought the idea up. I was like, man, 10 younger kids running around. It's just us two. And I'm like, are they going to get bored? All that. And she kind of mentioned the parent thing. And I was like, I was all on board with that. Because what I was, I guess, thinking in my head is, so this kid goes to this camp, falls in love with fishing. And even if it's just going out there, catching bluegills, like this place we go to is just loaded with bluegills. And the parent doesn't see back to the excitement of the kids catching fish. They don't see that excitement. So the kid goes home like, oh my God, I had so much fun doing that. Let's go fishing, take me fishing. And nothing against parents, but people are busy. Mm-hmm. And, then it just, it might get pushed off. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do. Like, you went with these two and they're really good at fishing. I don't know what to do. I can't, thinking as a parent, maybe I don't know what to do. So the kind of where I went with there is get them together. The parent sees it. It's fun. Kind of just get the parents involved too.
Yeah, they build the connections and memories together.
That I think that might resonate a lot with both of us. Emily and I have different backgrounds when it comes to our families and fishing, but I've said for quite a few years now, I wish my parents had known a lot more about X, because I've really found a passion for like lure and tackle fabrication, the whole painting and designing and building and all of those like little skills that come along with it, the carpentry and the metal work and the painting and creativity stuff. Like even something as simple as just pouring jigs, that's something that's inherently like very easy, fairly safe, as long as you you can
Don't
trust your
splash
kid.
lead on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like cooking, it's not that bad, and you don't need a whole lot to do it, and it's fairly inexpensive, right? But it's something that like really connects you with the sport. And I know Emily is kind of coming from a different ways, where her dad was into fishing, kind of gave her like the red white bobber type situation, and then they just kind of fell off of it until until we got together, and then it kind of brought her back to that. So yeah, I think that's really cool that you guys are connecting the kids with their parents through fishing. That's really cool.
Well, Josh, I like what you said about that, because and that goes the same with like hunting and all these other things, but like you're connected to even deeper with the lures and making it and all that stuff, where a lot of people, it's like, oh, I just got to go to the store and buy it, or I need to go to the grocery store and buy the meat instead of like hunting the meat, or and so I just think that's an extra cool, because we're getting into fly fishing, and my next thing after I can figure out how to actually cast like a normal person would be to make our own flies. And so we have some friends that do that, and it's just hearing her say like, oh, I caught it off of my the one I just made, and I'm like, that's so cool. It doesn't matter what the fish is, it's just the fact that you made something and it worked. And so I like that deeper connection too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I really think that kids have a mind that almost should be exploited for lure making, because if you just watch them draw something or color something, it just is like, why did you do that? How did your brain come up with that? But that's the type of things, like you go into any tackle shop and you pick up something and you're like, how did somebody come up with this? Like, why would a fish even eat that? Well, because it hasn't seen it before and they're curious. And that, kids can come up with stuff. And I feel like that a lot of times they're told like, oh, well, that's not how that's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. With lures, there's none of that. You make it however you want. I ran out of stuff at a pond over by Emily's parents' house, and I just took some yarn and I tied it onto
you ran out of bait.
Our
plastics.
Our plastics, and I took some yarn and I tied it on my or a bobber stop, and I just like peeled it apart and I tied it to a hook, and I was catching fish with that. And it was just like little pink strings like hanging off a hook, and it was like, well, that's silly that I even spend money on tackle, but but it's that kind of stuff that I think that gives kids confidence in the sport itself.
Yep.
But I think it also teaches them that like you don't have to be conventional. You can think outside of the box and things will still work.
Yes.
So I think that's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the kid fishing thing is just giving them an opportunity to try it young. So for me, like my parents camped. I mean, I grew up camping, and they camped with my grandparents, and my grandpa on the one side that we did that was huge into fishing, hunting, outdoor. I mean, and he taught me everything. My dad doesn't fish. Like he could give two craps less about fishing, but outdoor, like camping, horseback riding, we did all that. So fishing, I learned through my grandpa, and that man, I think he could have fished every single day of his life, and I think he was pretty dang close to fishing about every day of his life. And so I'd run with him, but had not been for him, so my dad didn't really fish. So if it wouldn't have been, given he's my grandpa, but I was introduced to it through him. So just the little bit of being able to introduce, maybe the parent doesn't fish, but they see that, their kid, he really enjoyed it or she really enjoyed it. So just give them the opportunity. That's, I think, is a big thing. And you're seeing less and less of that. Like it's a lot of sports. More power to them, but it's your football, your basketball, track, all that stuff. So it's harder for the kids to even have time to figure out that they like fishing. Mm-hmm. So just planting that seed is nice.
I think, how do I want to say this? Not that like growing up the way you learn, like he learned from his grandpa kept everything. Once he had limit, he was done, that's kind of that generation. And sometimes it still goes on to this day. We know so many people when they ice fish, they just want limit. They don't care and they want to be done. And I'm like, wow, I want to fish for like everything. And, but we are very much, we're trophy fishermen. However, we love multi-species. We love going after everything. Carp make us happy. We love it all. But because we're trophy fishermen and because we're tournament fishermen, it's like built into us now, the health of the fish. And so management and everything like that. And so that's something I want to teach to the next generation. It's not everybody, when they think fishing, they think fish fry afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to teach that.
So it's like, we don't want to tell people that they can't keep fish.
Yeah, because we do. We eat fish.
But we fish
we
enough.
Have our certain times of the year that, like, ice out is one that we keep, just enough catfish that we need, not overboard. And then like ice fishing, we keep just enough like panfish and stuff that we need. But other than that, we
selective harvest.
It's CPR. Like we want to demonstrate, catch, quickly take the picture, quickly release it. This is how you safely release it. Things like that. And like, if you want to catch this bigger one, this is why you have to do that. And then when you catch the bigger one, you still need to, release it. And I don't know, we just want to kind of teach that to the next generation. And from there, they can understand what and how they want to do things in the future, instead of just it tosses right into a bucket. We don't.
So my real quick funny story on that. So my grandpa, big into crappie. I mean, he caught catfish too, but later in the years, he got into crappie fishing really big. And this is when I was working my full-time job and, busy, just in my early 20s, just busy all the time. And I'm like, I got to get time to fish with Grandpa. So in the spring, when the crappie bite's really hot, I would take a day off work. And he was, at that time, he was 25 per person. He was go catch your 25 and then go home. Mm-hmm. So I took the day off work and we go to this lake and we're sitting there. And I mean, it's almost like every cast you're catching them. And I'm having a ball and I'm starting to throw some back because we're up to like 15 per. Oh, and he had that, he'd get really excited. He kind of stuttered a little bit. And after like the third one, I threw back. Oh, what are you doing? I want to eat. I'm like, Grandpa, we've been out here for half an hour. We're halfway to our limit. I'm like, I took the whole day off work. Yeah. I don't want to fish for 30 minutes. I want to be out here all day with you hanging out.
Yeah.
And so I had to be really careful. And then, so about every other one I'd throw back and kind of wait.
There was one time the three of us went
out. Yeah, you came with us too.
That's like the only time I got to fish with him. And we had to keep all 75. Yeah, like that was a long time afterwards.
And cleaning, but.
Well, and that
was their grocery store, so right. That's it. It's we understand it, but we don't want to just teach that's what you do when you fish. So
yeah, and you guys have very close sentiments to us too. I mean, I think people need to stop thinking that it's something that you have to take or else you're never going to get it again, and use it. Think of it more as like a resource. Mm-hmm. You can go out there and take advantage of any time that you want to. Mm-hmm. And so, even though, you can have a daily bag and you can keep twice that in, for us, at least in Wisconsin, I don't know every state's rules, but just because you can doesn't mean you need to. We don't keep fish in the freezer because that gives us an excuse to go fishing. If we want to eat fish, you have to go fishing, right? And so, there's things where like, we might stack up a few to put in the freezer for an event coming up, and we'll keep our limit just to bring it over to somebody's house for the next weekend, right? But otherwise, they're really the only thing you're doing by keeping that limit is just preventing yourself from utilizing that resource more, right? Until you consume. So I think that's really great that you guys are teaching that aspect. Is like it's a resource that we should take care of, and it'll sustain us into the future. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to stockpile.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna break it, I guess. Whether people choose to keep their fish or not, I guess, is up to them.
Yeah.
But the nice
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not picking on anybody. No,
Yep.
I'm just looking for a segue, and that was bad when I couldn't come up with anything. But what I was gonna say though is for people who are interested in, learning more, getting their kids into camps, getting themselves maybe going to camp, for that evening. If they are interested in information, are there still openings for this summer for people to sign up?
Yes. I'm getting limited on my nature camps. So a couple spots left on those. But yes, we actually still have quite a bit left open for our fishing camps. There's 3 nights, and if I can remember how I have it broken down, it's first grade and second grade.
I think so. Yeah.
Third and fourth, and then 5th and 6th grade. So that's kind of how we broke it down. But yes, there's plenty of spots still available, and all the information for everything would be. We don't have a website, so it's just through our Facebook posts.
Oh.
So most recent posts probably have the links to them.
Awesome.
And so for people who are looking at just the screen right now, and it just says Troy and Amy, which is lovely because that is your names. But how do they actually find you on Facebook?
I believe you're just Troy Hansen and then Amy Hansen on Facebook. We also our brand, I guess, is John Boat Mafia.
Yeah.
We're kind of slow on posting to that one, but hopefully in the future we'll get better with that. There's just so many things you got to do,
Yeah.
It's hard to have so many connections. But and then on Instagram, actually I don't think those camp links are on Instagram, but they're just through Facebook right now. So
But just Troy Hansen and then Amy Hansen on Facebook. You shouldn't have to scroll too far. We've been trying to share it quite a bit.
Just look for the giant catfish pictures.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I know that people are going to be excited to sign up for that. I know I would be, so I wish I lived a little bit closer, to be honest. But we'll definitely be watching online and see if you post about that, because that looks like all kinds of fun. And thanks so much for being here tonight to share all about it.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys having us. It was good to see you guys again.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah. We're gonna bump into each other soon for sure.
Yeah.
Not too late. I'm just saying June. Maybe sooner.
We'll keep connected for sure.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because that is always a big part of the fun. And I guess we'll see what happens with our ice, or if we're on open water this weekend. But we'll let you know on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.
Night.